Have you ever had that moment late at night when everything finally goes quiet and you're left alone with your thoughts? No phone buzzing, no conversations running in the background, no television filling the silence. Just you, sitting there, asking yourself quietly, am I really living the life I want to live? That question doesn't show up every day. It doesn't come knocking politely. It sneaks in when you're most vulnerable, when the noise dies down, and when you're honest enough to listen. For many people, that single thought becomes the spark of change. It's not dramatic, it doesn't come with fireworks or some grand revelation. It's subtle. But once it appears, it doesn't leave easily. The truth is, most of us know deep down that there's more to us than what we're showing the world. We know there are habits we could improve, fears we could overcome, dreams we've buried under excuses. And yet, we hesitate. We keep waiting for the perfect moment, the right opportunity, a sign that tells us, now it's time. But that perfect moment never arrives because life doesn't work that way. Change begins when you decide to stop waiting. Imagine this. A man wakes up every day, goes through the same routine, commutes to a job he doesn't love, scrolls through his phone at night, and then goes to bed wondering where the years are going. On the outside, nothing looks wrong. He's surviving, but on the inside, he feels this dull ache, a whisper saying, you're meant for more. That's the quiet suffering of an unlived life. And the scariest part? You can stay in that loop for decades without realizing how much time you've lost. Self-improvement is not about fixing what's broken. It's about realizing you were never broken to begin with. It's about uncovering the potential that's been there all along, hidden under layers of doubt, distraction, and routine. Think of it like polishing a diamond. The diamond is already valuable, already brilliant, but unless you clean away the dust, no one, not even you, gets to see its shine. The journey starts small, always. People imagine transformation as this huge, dramatic leap, but in reality it's a series of tiny, consistent steps. One better choice in the morning, one small moment of courage in the afternoon, one decision to say yes when fear wants you to say no. These moments add up, and over time they shift who you are becoming. Let's start with something simple. Habits. Habits are the invisible architecture of your life. They decide what your days look like, and your days add up to your years. If you wake up late, scroll through your phone, eat junk food, procrastinate, complain, and then wonder why you feel unfulfilled, the answer isn't complicated. Your habits are shaping your reality. And the powerful truth is that you can shape your habits. There's a story about a man who decided to run every day. Not far, just 1 mile. At first, it felt like nothing. What's 1 mile? But he kept showing up, even on the days he didn't feel like it. 1 mile turned into 2, then 5, then 10. Years later, he had run marathons. Not because he woke up one morning and said, I'm going to be a marathon runner, but because he made one small choice every day that led him there. That's the essence of growth. It sneaks up on you, quietly, while you're simply staying consistent. But here's where many people get stuck. They want results faster than life can deliver them. They go to the gym once, look in the mirror, and get discouraged. They meditate twice, don't feel like a monk, and quit. They try waking up early for a week, then slip back into old patterns. What they forget is that consistency is more powerful than intensity. A small habit done daily is worth more than a huge effort done once in a while. Imagine if a drop of water fell on a rock every single day. At first, nothing happens. The rock looks the same. But after years, that water carves a groove into solid stone. That's what habits do to your life. They carve you into the person you're becoming, whether you realize it or not. Now, let's talk about confidence. Confidence isn't about being loud or always sure of yourself. It's about trust. Trust in your ability to handle what comes your way. Think back to the first time you did something new. Maybe riding a bike, learning to swim, or speaking in front of a class. You weren't confident at first. You were nervous, maybe even terrified. But the more you practiced, the less scary it became. That's the secret. Confidence is built by doing, not by waiting. Too many people wait for confidence before taking action. They say, once I feel ready, I'll start. But readiness doesn't come first. Action does. The more you step into discomfort, the more your comfort zone expands. It's like a rubber band. Stretch it often enough, and it never goes back to its original size. You grow, and you stay grown. One of the biggest killers of confidence is comparison. Social media has made it almost impossible not to compare your life to others. You see someone's highlight reel, their vacations, their successes, their perfect photos, and you compare it to your behind-the-scenes mess. Of course you'll feel inadequate. But here's the thing, you're comparing your chapter 1 to someone else's chapter 20. And even then, you're not seeing their struggles, their failures, their doubts. Everyone has them. No one posts their worst days online. The antidote to comparison is self-focus. Instead of asking, am I better than them? Ask, am I better than yesterday's me? That's the only comparison that matters. Progress, not perfection. Let me tell you a story. A young woman wanted to learn painting. She looked online and saw thousands of artists better than her. She almost gave up before starting, thinking, what's the point? I'll never be that good. But she decided to practice anyway. Every day she painted something small, a flower, a tree, a cup on the table. At first it looked terrible, but months passed and her work improved. Years later people admired her art. What changed? Not some miracle, just the decision to start, and the courage to keep going even when she felt like she wasn't good enough. Self-improvement is filled with moments like that, the quiet victories no one claps for. Waking up earlier than your comfort wants you to, saying no to a temptation you usually say yes to, choosing to study when you'd rather scroll. These don't feel like big wins, but they are. Because every time you choose discipline over comfort, you're casting a vote for the person you want to become. Now let's talk about the mind. Your mind is both your greatest ally and your biggest enemy. It can create opportunities, or it can create prisons. If you've ever felt stuck, chances are it wasn't because the world was holding you back. It was because your own thoughts were. Fear, doubt, excuses, overthinking. These are the bars of an invisible cage. And the first step to breaking free is awareness. Notice the stories you tell yourself. Do you say, I can't do this, I'm not good enough, I'll fail anyway? Those words are not harmless. They shape your reality, because the brain listens to what you repeat. If you keep telling yourself you're incapable, your actions will match that belief. But if you change the script, if you start telling yourself, I can learn, I can grow, I can try, suddenly new possibilities open up. Here's the beautiful truth. You don't need to believe fully in yourself from the start. You just need to believe in your ability to take the next step. That's it. You don't climb a mountain by leaping to the top. You climb it one step at a time. And when you fall, and you will fall, you get back up. Failure isn't the opposite of growth. It's part of it. Every mistake carries a lesson, and every lesson carries you forward. The only real failure is giving up. You know, people often ask, where do I start? It's such a common question. They see the endless sea of self-help books, motivational talks, morning routine videos, and they feel overwhelmed. It's like standing in front of a massive buffet table, not knowing what to put on your plate first. And so they do nothing. They wait for clarity, for some perfect strategy that will guarantee success. But the truth is simpler. You don't need to start with the perfect step. You just need to start with a step. Any step. Momentum comes from movement, not from thinking about movement. Imagine a car stuck in the mud. You can sit inside, planning and analyzing, but until you actually press the pedal, the car isn't going anywhere. At first, the tires will spin and kick up dirt, but eventually, with persistence, you'll move. That's how improvement works. One of the best starting points is the morning. How you begin your day sets the tone for everything that follows. If you wake up late, grab your phone, scroll through endless feeds, and stumble into your tasks already behind, you've handed the world control of your life before you've even had a chance to claim it. But if you wake up with intention, even with something small like drinking water, stretching, or journaling, you've already proven to yourself that you can make choices that serve you. Let me share a story. There was a man who struggled with discipline his whole life. He tried diets, workout plans, productivity systems, but nothing stuck. One day, he read about making his bed every morning. At first he laughed. How could making a bed change my life? But he tried it. The first week, it felt silly. But soon, he realized that starting the day with one simple act of order created a ripple effect. Because he made his bed, he felt less lazy. Because he felt less lazy, he ate a healthier breakfast. Because he ate better, he had more energy to exercise. That small, almost trivial habit became the seed of transformation. That's the power of small beginnings. You don't need to overhaul your entire life overnight. You just need one thing. And when you master that one thing, it builds confidence for the next. Growth is compound interest. It may look tiny at first, but it multiplies with time. Now let's step into another truth. Self-improvement is not always exciting. In fact, much of it is painfully boring. People imagine it as a constant rush of motivation, like the highlight reels they see online. But in reality, it's repetition. It's doing the push-ups when no one is watching. It's writing the page when you don't feel like writing. It's saving money instead of buying the shiny thing you want. Discipline is not glamorous, it's quiet. But it's in that quiet, uncelebrated space that real change is born. We live in a world addicted to instant results. Everything is faster. Messages, deliveries, entertainment. And so we expect our growth to be instant too. But human transformation is ancient. It doesn't obey the timelines of modern technology. It requires patience, persistence, and the willingness to look a little foolish at first. Think about learning to play a musical instrument. In the beginning, your fingers stumble, the notes sound wrong, and frustration bubbles up. Many people quit at this stage because they can't stand the gap between what they want to play and what actually comes out. But the ones who stay, the ones who keep practicing, even when it feels awful, are the ones who eventually create music. That's self-improvement in a nutshell. The messy beginnings are not evidence that you're failing, they're proof that you're learning. And let me say this, your journey will never look like anyone else's. Some people thrive in structured routines, others grow best with flexibility. Some leap forward quickly, others crawl slowly but steadily. There's no single formula. The only common ingredient is persistence. As long as you keep going, no matter how clumsy or imperfectly, you're already winning. I want you to imagine your future self. Picture the person you want to be 5 years from now. What do they look like? How do they move through the world? How do they speak? How do they treat others? What do they prioritize? Hold that image in your mind. That version of you is not some distant stranger. It's the sum of your daily choices. Every day you're either moving closer to that person or further away. There's a phrase I love. You don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems. Having big dreams is wonderful. Wanting to be healthier, wealthier, kinder, stronger, those are noble desires. But unless you create systems, unless you design your environment and your habits to support those dreams, they remain fantasies. A goal without a system is like planting a seed without watering it. You can't be surprised when nothing grows. Let me give you an example. Imagine someone wants to write a book. That's their goal. But their system? They don't set aside time daily. They don't create a quiet space to write. They don't commit to even a small word count each day. Instead, they wait for inspiration to strike, which might come once every few months. Years later, they're still talking about writing, but nothing's on the page. Now imagine someone else with the same goal. Their system is simple. Write 500 words every morning before work. Some days the writing is great, other days it's terrible, but they show up. A year later, they have a full manuscript. The difference wasn't the dream, it was the system. This is why designing your environment matters. If you want to eat healthier, don't keep junk food in your house. If you want to exercise more, put your shoes by the door. If you want to read more, keep a book on your nightstand instead of your phone. Your willpower is limited, but your environment can be designed to reduce friction and make good choices easier. Let's talk about friction. People often give up not because the task is impossible, but because the resistance is too high. For example, if going to the gym requires a 30-minute drive, finding parking, and navigating crowds, chances are you won't stick to it long term. But if you start with a workout you can do in your living room for 10 minutes, suddenly the barrier is smaller and you're more likely to stay consistent. Over time, that consistency builds the foundation for bigger steps. Now here's a deeper truth. Self-improvement isn't just about habits and systems. It's also about identity. Who you believe yourself to be shapes your actions more than anything else. If you believe you're the kind of person who is lazy, you'll act lazy. If you believe you're the kind of person who never finishes what they start, you'll quit. But when you shift your identity, even subtly, your behavior follows. For instance, instead of saying, "I'm trying to quit smoking," say, "I don't smoke." Instead of saying, "I'm trying to get fit," say, "I'm an active person." Notice how the second version claims the identity directly. Over time, your brain works to stay consistent with who you believe you are. Identity creates action, and action reinforces identity. But let me pause here and remind you, this journey is not about becoming someone else. It's about becoming more fully you. Not the you that's weighed down by doubts, fears, or bad habits. The you that's been waiting beneath all that noise. Self-improvement is not about replacing yourself, it's about revealing yourself. And one of the most overlooked aspects of this journey is kindness. Too many people approach growth with harshness. They beat themselves up for slipping, for being inconsistent, for not being perfect. But self-criticism rarely produces long-term change. Think about it. If a coach screamed at you every time you made a mistake, would that motivate you to improve, or would it crush your spirit? Growth flourishes under patience, compassion, and encouragement. You will slip, you will procrastinate, you will miss workouts, eat the cake, binge watch shows instead of studying. That doesn't make you a failure. It makes you human. The key is not perfection, but resilience. You don't drown by falling into the water. You drown by staying there. Get up. Start again. As many times as it takes. Here's something most people don't realize. The people you surround yourself with shape you more than you think. We like to believe we're independent, unaffected by outside influence, but human beings are wired for imitation. We pick up on the moods, habits, and beliefs of those around us almost unconsciously. If you spend most of your time with people who complain, gossip, and stay stuck, it's only a matter of time before you mirror those patterns. But if you surround yourself with people who are disciplined, positive, and ambitious, you naturally rise to meet that energy. There's an old saying, "Show me your friends, and I'll show you your future." It sounds cliché, but it's painfully accurate. Look at the 5 people you spend the most time with. Are they encouraging you to grow, or are they holding you back? Are they inspiring you, or are they draining you? If you want to improve your life, sometimes the bravest step is creating distance from those who keep you stuck. That doesn't mean cutting everyone out cold. It means being intentional. Seek out environments where growth is normal, where striving for better is celebrated, not mocked. Join a community, a group, a circle where people are building, not destroying. Because here's the truth, improvement is contagious. When you see someone else breaking limits, you begin to believe you can too. But even with support, there's one battle you'll always have to fight alone. The battle with your inner critic. That voice inside that says, "Who are you to try this? You're not smart enough, you're not talented enough, you'll embarrass yourself." Everyone has that voice, even the most successful people. The difference is they don't obey it. They hear it, they acknowledge it, but they don't let it decide their actions. You see, fear doesn't disappear when you grow. It evolves. The challenges get bigger and the fear grows with them. But courage isn't the absence of fear. Courage is walking forward despite the fear. If you wait to feel fearless before you act, you'll never act. But if you accept that fear will always be present and you move anyway, you reclaim your power. Let me give you an example. A man once told the story of his first public speech. He was terrified. His hands shook, his voice cracked, his heart pounded like a drum. He thought he'd failed. But afterwards, someone from the audience came up to him and said, "Thank you. That speech moved me." That's when he realized fear is loudest inside your own head. To the outside world, it's often invisible. The audience doesn't see your shaking hands as clearly as you do. They see your effort. They hear your words. They feel your authenticity. And that's what matters. The truth is, authenticity is more powerful than perfection. People don't connect with flawless, untouchable images. They connect with realness, with vulnerability, honesty, and humanity. When you allow yourself to be imperfect, to be seen as you truly are, you not only free yourself, you give others permission to do the same. And speaking of freedom, let's talk about one of the biggest prisons people live in, the fear of other people's opinions. How many dreams have been abandoned because someone was too worried about being judged? How many talents never saw the light because someone thought, "What will they say?" Here's the truth. People are always going to talk. Whether you succeed or fail, someone will have an opinion. You cannot control it, but you can control whether or not you let it stop you. Ask yourself this: will the people you're so afraid of disappointing even remember what they said about you 5 years from now? Probably not. But 5 years from now, you will remember if you gave up on yourself. Don't trade long-term fulfillment for short-term approval. Now let's turn towards something we often overlook in self-improvement: rest. Growth isn't just about pushing harder, hustling longer, grinding endlessly. That's the fastest way to burn out. Real improvement includes balance. Rest is not laziness. Rest is renewal. Just as muscles need recovery after exercise, your mind and spirit need space to recharge. Think about a bow and arrow. If you keep the string pulled back all the time, eventually it loses its strength. But if you let it rest, it regains its tension and power. You're the same. You cannot live at full stretch endlessly. You need moments of stillness, reflection, even play. Ironically, the people who respect their rest often achieve more, because their energy is sustained, not depleted. Now let's step into the territory of meaning. Because at some point, self-improvement can become shallow if it's only about personal gain. More money, more health, more skills. They're valuable, but they're not the whole picture. True fulfillment comes when your growth extends beyond yourself, when it starts to touch the lives of others. Ask yourself, who benefits when I become the best version of me? Maybe it's your family, who gets a more present and loving you. Maybe it's your community, who gains from your service or your creativity. Maybe it's strangers who feel inspired by your example. The point is, your growth is not selfish, it's a contribution. The stronger you become, the more you can give. And giving creates a loop of meaning. When you improve yourself, you inspire others. When they grow, they inspire more people. It becomes a ripple effect, spreading far beyond what you can see. That's the legacy of self-improvement. It doesn't stop with you. But before you think this journey is some straight upward path, let me remind you, it's not. Growth is messy. It's filled with ups and downs, with seasons of progress and seasons of stagnation. Some days you'll feel unstoppable, other days you'll feel like you're sliding backwards. That's normal. Don't mistake temporary struggle for permanent failure. Think of it like the seasons. Winter doesn't mean the death of life. It's simply a season of dormancy before spring returns. Your difficult days are the same. They're not the end of your story. They're the quiet preparation for your next bloom. Here's what matters most. Don't stop. No matter how slow, no matter how many breaks you need, just keep moving. Even a small step forward is progress. Even crawling keeps you closer to the path than standing still. So as you hear these words, ask yourself quietly, what's one small step I can take today? Not tomorrow, not next week, but today. Maybe it's drinking more water. Maybe it's writing down your thoughts. Maybe it's making one phone call you've been avoiding. Start there. And let that small step be the proof that you are capable of change. Because you are more capable than you realize, stronger than you've been told. And the best part, you don't have to become anyone else. You simply have to uncover the person you were always meant to be. Think about this for a moment. Every single person you admire, every author, athlete, leader, or innovator you've ever looked up to, started exactly where you are, uncertain, unpolished, and often invisible to the world. They weren't born confident or disciplined. They built it, day by day, with choices no one else saw. The difference between those who create meaningful lives and those who drift is not talent, not luck, not connections. It's persistence. But persistence is difficult in a culture that worships speed. Everywhere you turn, there's an ad promising a shortcut. 6 weeks to a new body, 30 days to financial freedom, a single hack to master productivity. And while these promises sell well, they set you up for disappointment. Because when you try and the results don't arrive overnight, you feel like something's wrong with you. But nothing is wrong with you. What's wrong is the expectation. Real growth takes time, and you can't cheat time. Here's a story I like to tell. A farmer plants bamboo. For years he waters it, tends the soil, and waits. But nothing happens. 1 year passes, 2 years, 3 years, still nothing breaks the surface. Most people would give up, but the farmer continues. In the 5th year, seemingly overnight, the bamboo shoots up, 50, 60, even 80 feet tall. Did it really grow overnight? Of course not. It was growing underground the whole time, building roots strong enough to support its future height. Growth often feels invisible until suddenly it isn't. And your life works the same way. When you put in the work, reading, learning, training, practicing, you might not see the results right away. But underneath the surface, your roots are spreading. You're building a foundation for a future breakthrough. Trust the process. Even if you can't see it, something is happening. Now let's talk about failure. People fear it like a plague. We're taught from a young age that mistakes are shameful. A wrong answer in class brings laughter. A lost game brings disappointment. A failed test brings punishment. And so we learn to avoid failure at all costs. But in avoiding failure, we also avoid growth. Failure is not the enemy, it's the teacher. Every stumble carries information you could never get from success alone. Think of a baby learning to walk. They fall hundreds of times, but no one calls them a failure. We cheer them on because we know every fall is progress. Why do we forget that as adults? Why do we shame ourselves for falling when falling is how we learn to rise? The people who succeed most in life aren't the ones who avoid failure. They're the ones who fail often and fast and keep going. They treat failure like data, not defeat. They ask, what can I learn from this? How can I adjust? And then they try again. That willingness to keep playing, to stay in the arena even when it's messy, is what separates the dreamers from the doers. But failure alone isn't enough. Reflection is what transforms failure into wisdom. If you repeat the same mistakes without pausing to understand them, you're just running in circles. But if you stop, examine what happened, and shift your approach, failure becomes the stepping stone to success. Here's another truth. Success itself can be dangerous if you're not careful. Because once you achieve something, the mind has a sneaky way of convincing you that you've arrived, that the work is done. You lose the hunger that got you there, and slowly you start to decline. That's why some people rise quickly but then crash. They stopped growing after their first taste of victory. The real masters in any field never stop being students. Even at the top, they're curious. They ask questions, they seek feedback, they experiment, they reinvent themselves. Success is not the finish line. It's just another checkpoint on a longer road. If you treat it like the end, you'll plateau. If you treat it like the beginning of a new chapter, you'll keep evolving. And evolution requires discomfort. People love the idea of growth, but they hate the feeling of it. Because growth means leaving behind what's familiar, stepping into uncertainty and facing resistance. It means admitting you don't know, that you're not yet who you want to be. That's uncomfortable. But comfort is the enemy of progress. Comfort keeps you where you are. Imagine lifting weights. If you only ever lift what feels easy, your muscles never grow. It's the resistance, it's the struggle, the micro tears in the muscle fibers that create strength. Life is the same. The resistance you face is not a sign you're weak. It's the very process that builds you. But here's where people misunderstand. Discomfort doesn't mean suffering endlessly or burning yourself out. It means embracing challenges that stretch you without breaking you. It means pushing just past your limits, enough to grow, but not so much that you collapse. Growth lives in that sweet spot between comfort and chaos. Let me ask you something. How do you talk to yourself when you're alone? That inner dialogue shapes your reality more than you realize. If your self-talk is filled with criticism, you're not enough, you'll never succeed, you're wasting your time, your mind becomes a hostile environment. But if you shift your self-talk, even slightly, the entire landscape changes. Replace I can't with I can try. Replace I'm a failure with I'm learning. Replace it's too late with I'm just beginning. Words matter. And the words you tell yourself matter most of all. I once read about an athlete who repeated the phrase I'm getting stronger every day, every morning in the mirror. At first he didn't believe it. It felt ridiculous. But after months of repetition, something shifted. His actions began to align with that belief. He trained harder, ate better, slept earlier. The words carved a new identity, and the identity shaped his behavior. It wasn't magic. It was the brain aligning with the story it heard over and over again. So pay attention. What story are you telling yourself? And more importantly, is it a story worth living? Let's go deeper into the idea of identity. You see, your behaviors always follow who you believe you are. If you believe you're lazy, you'll act lazy. If you believe you're disciplined, you'll act disciplined. If you want to change your life, you must first change the picture you hold of yourself. Start small. Instead of trying to force yourself into massive change, ask, what would a healthy person do in this moment? What would a focused person do? What would a kind person do? And then do that, even in the smallest way. Over time, you'll begin to embody that identity until it feels natural. That's how real transformation happens. Not in sudden explosions, but in subtle shifts that add up. One day, you'll look back and realize you've become the person you once only dreamed of being. And here's the beauty. You don't need permission to start. No one has to choose you, approve you, or validate you. The door to growth is always open, but you're the one who has to walk through it. Here's something people rarely admit out loud. Most of the limitations in your life are self-imposed. Yes, circumstances matter. Yes, luck plays a role. But more often than not, it's not the world holding you back. It's you. It's the voice that whispers, I could never do that. It's the decision to stay quiet instead of speaking up. It's the choice to scroll when you could create. Your cage is not made of iron bars. It's made of beliefs. Take a moment and think of all the times you've told yourself no before the world even had a chance to respond. How many opportunities have you shut down in your head because you assumed you weren't ready, you weren't smart enough, you weren't talented enough? That is self-sabotage disguised as humility. And it keeps you small. But here's the liberating truth. Beliefs can be rewritten. They're not permanent. They're habits of thought, and like any habit, they can be changed. Start questioning them. When your mind says, I can't do this, respond with, who told me that? Where's the evidence? 9 times out of 10, you'll realize the belief has no real foundation. It's just a shadow you've mistaken for a wall. And once you see that, everything shifts. Suddenly, what felt impossible becomes a challenge. What felt heavy becomes bearable. What felt like the end becomes a beginning. Now let's talk about environment. People like to imagine they're independent, untouched by influence. But the truth is, your environment shapes you more than your willpower does. You rise or fall to the level of the company you keep. If everyone around you complains, gossips, and settles for less, you'll start doing the same without noticing. If everyone around you pushes harder, dreams bigger, and takes risks, you'll start expanding just to keep up. There's an old saying, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. But here's the hidden part. Who you go with matters. Some people will drain your energy, others will multiply it. Some will belittle your dreams, others will fuel them. Pay attention to which voices surround you, because they will become the chorus in your mind. That doesn't mean you need to cut everyone out or live in isolation. It means you need to choose carefully. Spend more time with those who challenge you to grow, and less with those who chain you to the past. It's not about arrogance. It's about survival. If your environment doesn't support your future, you won't have the strength to build it. And here's something most people don't realize. Environment isn't just physical, it's digital. What you watch, what you scroll, what you listen to, that's also shaping you. If your feed is filled with outrage, drama, and comparison, don't be surprised if you feel restless, anxious, and insecure. But if you fill your digital diet with ideas, inspiration, and knowledge, your inner world will reflect that instead. So curate carefully. Think of it like nutrition. You wouldn't eat junk food all day and expect to feel healthy. Don't feed your mind junk and expect it to thrive. Now, let's shift into something deeper. The relationship between discipline and freedom. Most people think discipline is the opposite of freedom. They see it as restriction, as a loss of spontaneity. But in reality, discipline is the path to true freedom. Think about it. The person with no financial discipline is enslaved by debt. The person with no health discipline is enslaved by fatigue and illness. The person with no emotional discipline is enslaved by anger, envy, and impulse. Lack of discipline doesn't create freedom, it creates chains. Discipline, on the other hand, is what sets you free. When you build discipline with money, you gain financial freedom. When you build discipline with your body, you gain physical freedom. When you build discipline with your emotions, you gain inner freedom. Discipline may feel like sacrifice in the moment, but it's investment in long-term liberty. And here's the secret. Discipline doesn't have to be brutal. It's not about waking up at 4 a.m. every day or working until you collapse. True discipline is consistency, not extremism. It's the quiet commitment to show up every day, even if only a little. It's choosing the harder right over the easier wrong again and again until it becomes who you are. Think of it like brushing your teeth. You don't need motivation to brush your teeth every morning. You don't give yourself a pep talk. You don't ask, "Am I feeling it today?" You just do it because it's part of your identity. That's what discipline looks like at its best, automatic, almost effortless. And the way to get there is repetition. At first, new habits feel heavy. They require willpower, but over time, repetition takes over, and the habit becomes lighter. That's when the magic happens. That's when your life begins to change, not from one big transformation, but from the steady accumulation of small disciplines. But here's the catch. You won't always feel like it. Waiting for motivation is a trap. Motivation is unreliable. It comes and goes like the weather. If you rely on it, your progress will be inconsistent. What you need instead is commitment. Commitment doesn't ask how you feel. It simply shows up, and showing up is half the battle. Even on days when you're tired, even when progress feels invisible, even when doubt whispers that it's pointless, just showing up keeps the momentum alive. Because consistency compounds. A single action feels small, but repeated daily, it rewires who you are. Let's make this real. Imagine you write 1 page a day. In a year, that's a book. Imagine you save just $5 a day. In a year, that's over $1,800. Imagine you exercise for just 20 minutes daily. In a year, your body is transformed. Small actions don't feel powerful, but their compounding effect is unstoppable. And here's the part that most people overlook. The compounding works both ways. Just as positive habits build your future, negative habits quietly destroy it. One skipped workout doesn't matter. One missed opportunity doesn't matter. One careless expense doesn't matter. But repeated daily, those small choices add up. The life you live today is the result of compounded choices from your past. The life you'll live tomorrow will be the result of the choices you're making right now. Which means the power is always in your hands. You don't need to wait for the perfect moment. You don't need to wait for permission. Every small choice is a chance to cast a vote for the person you want to become. And those votes, added up over time, create your identity. So ask yourself, what choices are you making today? Are they aligned with the person you want to be, or are they dragging you backward? Here's another truth most people miss. Self-improvement is not a straight line. It's not a ladder where you climb step by step, never slipping. It's more like a spiral staircase. You keep circling around, sometimes feeling like you're back where you started, but in reality, you're higher than before. The scenery changes even if the pattern looks familiar. That's why setbacks don't erase progress. A bad day doesn't cancel a good week. A relapse doesn't erase years of growth. It simply means you're human. The key is perspective. If you define yourself by your worst moments, you'll always feel defeated. But if you define yourself by your persistence, the fact that you keep coming back, keep trying, you'll realize you're stronger than you think. Let me give you a picture. Imagine a child learning to walk. They fall dozens of times. They wobble, stumble, crash to the ground. But nobody looks at that child and says, "Well, I guess walking just isn't for you." No, we expect them to fall. We cheer when they stand again, and eventually, step by step, they learn to walk. Why don't we give ourselves that same grace? Why do we expect perfection the first time we try something new? Falling is part of the process. It's not proof of weakness. It's proof that you're in the arena, learning, growing, becoming. And here's the kicker. The lessons you learn from falling are often the ones that stick the deepest. Failure teaches what success cannot. Success can make you proud, but failure makes you wise. Success can make you comfortable, but failure makes you resilient. If you've never failed, you've probably never stretched yourself far enough. Now, let's move into something deeper. Purpose. Because improvement without direction can feel empty. You can climb a ladder quickly, but if it's leaning against the wrong wall, what's the point? Self-improvement should not just be about getting better. It should be about getting better at what truly matters to you. Ask yourself, what am I improving for? Is it to impress others, to escape insecurity? Or is it to align with my values, to live the life I know deep down I'm meant to live? Because if your improvement is rooted in comparison, it will never satisfy you. There will always be someone ahead. But if your improvement is rooted in purpose, every step will feel meaningful, no matter how small. Finding that purpose isn't about some grand revelation. It's about noticing what makes you come alive. What problems are you drawn to solve? What kind of work makes time disappear? What impact leaves you feeling fulfilled instead of drained? Your purpose is hiding in those clues, and once you touch it, your discipline will no longer feel like drudgery, it will feel like devotion. Because discipline attached to purpose is not a burden, it's a joy. You're no longer forcing yourself to grow, you're pulled forward by something greater. But purpose alone isn't enough. You need vision. You need to see the person you're becoming, to imagine the life you're creating. Without vision, discipline feels empty. With vision, every sacrifice feels worth it. So dare to imagine. Close your eyes and picture the best version of yourself. Picture the life that version of you lives. Then ask yourself, what choices would that person make today? And start living like them, step by step. This brings us to one of the most powerful truths in self-improvement. Identity shapes behavior. You can try to force habits with willpower, but unless they're tied to your identity, they'll eventually fade. If you see yourself as someone who tries to quit smoking, you'll struggle. But if you begin to see yourself as a non-smoker, your actions align with that identity. The shift is subtle but transformative. Don't just set goals like I want to run a marathon. Build the identity, I am a runner. Don't just say I want to read more. Build the identity, I am a reader. Behavior flows naturally from identity. The more you embody who you want to be, the less effort it takes to act in alignment. And here's the beauty. Identity is not fixed. You're not chained to the labels you've carried for years. You can rewrite them. You can decide today who you are becoming. Every action is a vote for that identity. Every choice either reinforces the old you or creates the new you. So here's the question. Who do you want to be? Not just what do you want to achieve, but who do you want to become? Because when that answer is clear, the habits will follow. And remember this, the journey never ends. There is no final destination where you'll say, I've made it, I'm perfect now. Growth is a lifelong process, and that's a gift, because it means every day carries the possibility of becoming more, learning more, giving more. Life never has to become stale. As long as you're alive, there's more to discover within yourself. So don't wait for a finish line. Learn to love the process. The late nights, the early mornings, the small wins, the setbacks, the comebacks, they're all part of the story. And in the end, the story itself is the reward. Because one day you'll look back and realize the real transformation wasn't in what you achieved, but in who you became along the way. Let's talk about time. Because if there's one resource more valuable than money, more precious than possessions, it's time. You can lose money and earn it back. You can lose possessions and replace them. But once a moment of time is gone, it's gone forever. Yet strangely, time is the thing most people waste the most carelessly. Hours lost to distraction, days lost to procrastination, years lost to living someone else's dream instead of their own. And then one day, you look back and realize the things you thought you had time for are gone. The window closed while you were waiting. So here's the challenge. Treat time as the currency of your life. Before you spend an hour, ask yourself, is this purchase worth it? Would you buy another episode of mindless scrolling if it cost you 60 minutes of your one and only life? Would you buy another round of gossip if it cost you the energy you could have spent building something real? That doesn't mean you need to be productive every second. Rest and joy are also worthy investments. What it does mean is awareness. Spend your time on purpose, not by accident. And here's where it gets interesting. When you begin to value your time, your standards shift. You stop tolerating relationships that drain you. You stop chasing things that don't matter. You stop saying yes out of guilt. Because you realize every yes is also a no to yourself, to your growth, to your dreams. The truth is, how you spend your time is who you become. 10 years from now, you won't be defined by your intentions. You'll be defined by how you used your hours. That's why the small daily choices matter so much. They seem trivial, but they're sculpting your future self in real time. Let's put it in perspective. Imagine your life as a book. Every day you write one page. What kind of story are you writing? One filled with adventure, growth, love, and meaning, or one filled with repetition, regret, and wasted chances? Because whether you realize it or not, you are. And here's another truth about time. It's not guaranteed. Tomorrow is a promise nobody can make. Too many people live as if they have endless tomorrows. They postpone their dreams, their apologies, their risks, saying, "I'll do it later." But later is not always given. So stop waiting. Start now. Not next year, not next week, now. Write the book, start the business, say the words you've been holding back. Life doesn't reward hesitation, it rewards action. But here's the irony. When you truly understand how fragile time is, you don't rush, you focus. You don't scatter your energy across 1,000 meaningless tasks. You channel it into what truly matters. Because you realize that busyness is not the same as progress. You can run in circles all day and end up nowhere. Progress requires direction, which brings us to clarity. Do you know where your time should go? Do you know what matters most to you? Because without clarity, even discipline can become a trap. You'll work hard, but on the wrong things. You'll get to the top of the ladder only to discover it's leaning against the wrong wall. So pause and ask yourself, what are my priorities? Not the priorities society handed me. Not the ones my parents, peers, or culture pushed onto me. My priorities. The ones that, when I honor them, bring me peace and fulfillment. Those priorities should guide your time like a compass. And once you know them, here's the challenge. Protect them. Because the world will always try to pull you away. Distractions are endless. But if you don't guard your priorities, no one else will. That's why boundaries are essential. Boundaries with your time, your energy, your focus. Boundaries are not selfish. They're necessary. Without them, you'll spend your life living by other people's agendas instead of your own. But boundaries require courage. Saying no feels uncomfortable. Disappointing others feels heavy. Yet every no to others is a yes to yourself. And in the long run, people respect those who respect themselves. Here's a truth worth remembering. Discipline gives you power over yourself, but boundaries give you power over your environment. One without the other is incomplete. Together, they create the space for true growth. And when you pair that with gratitude, you unlock something extraordinary. Because self-improvement isn't just about striving for more, it's about appreciating what you already have. Gratitude doesn't make you complacent, it makes you strong. It shifts your focus from scarcity to abundance, from fear to possibility. When you practice gratitude daily, even for small things, the sunlight on your face, the meal in front of you, the people who care, you train your mind to see opportunities instead of obstacles. Gratitude is the soil in which resilience grows, because when you're thankful, setbacks feel smaller and victories feel richer. So here's the formula: discipline, boundaries, gratitude, and clarity. Together they transform not just your habits but your life. They turn wasted time into meaningful time and empty days into fulfilling ones. And remember, this isn't theory, this is practice. Every day you'll have a choice. Spend time unconsciously or spend it intentionally. Every day you'll have a chance to live aligned with your values or drift with the current. Every day you write another page. So ask yourself, what kind of story will today's page tell? Here's a paradox you'll encounter on the path of self-improvement. The more progress you make, the more you realize how much further you have to go. At first, growth feels exciting. You learn new skills, change your habits, see results. But then you look up and notice there's still a mountain ahead. That moment can feel overwhelming. Some people stop there. They think, if I'll never be perfect, why bother? But perfection was never the goal. Growth isn't about reaching an end, it's about expanding what's possible. The horizon always moves, but so do you. Think of it like climbing. The higher you go, the wider the view. You start seeing possibilities that were invisible from the ground, and that view, that sense of perspective, is its own reward. But here's the challenge: the climb gets harder the higher you go. Old excuses won't hold. Old habits won't sustain you. Growth requires new strength at every stage. That's why self-improvement isn't a one-time decision, but a lifelong commitment. Now let's touch on something critical: Comparison. If there's one habit that kills progress faster than almost anything else, it's measuring your journey against someone else's. Social media makes this worse. You see highlight reels of other people's lives and think, I'm behind, I'm not enough. But comparison is a thief. It steals your joy, your focus, and your confidence. Here's the truth. You're not supposed to be on their timeline. You're on yours. Their chapter 10 isn't supposed to look like your chapter 2. The only person you should compare yourself to is who you were yesterday. If you're growing, even slightly, you're winning. And let me tell you something. Most people are faking it anyway. They show success, not struggle. They show the polished version, not the behind the scenes. Don't let illusions distract you from your reality. Focus on your path, your progress, your purpose. Now let's talk about courage. Growth demands it, because every improvement requires you to step into the unknown. You'll never feel fully ready. You'll never have all the answers. But waiting for certainty is another form of procrastination. Courage means leaping while afraid. Think about every breakthrough in your life so far. Chances are it started with fear. The first time you spoke in front of others. The first time you confessed your feelings. The first time you tried something new. Fear was there, but so was courage. And that courage opened doors. Here's the formula. Confidence doesn't come before action. Confidence comes after. You act first, you stumble, you learn, and then you grow confident. People who wait to feel ready never move. People who act despite fear become unstoppable. Another crucial piece of growth is resilience, because life will test you. You'll face setbacks you didn't plan for, losses you didn't expect, failures you didn't see coming. Improvement doesn't mean avoiding pain, it means learning how to rise after it. Resilience is not about pretending you're okay. It's about refusing to stay down. It's about feeling the pain, acknowledging it, but choosing to keep moving forward anyway. And every time you rise, you build strength for the next storm. Now let's bring in a concept that ties everything together. Responsibility. At the core of self-improvement is ownership. As long as you blame others, your parents, your boss, your circumstances, you stay powerless. But the moment you say, this is my life and I'm responsible for it, everything changes. Responsibility is freedom. Because if you cause none of your problems, you can fix none of them. But if you own them, you can change everything. That doesn't mean guilt. It doesn't mean blaming yourself for things out of your control. It means taking ownership of your response. Life throws things at you, but your response is your power. Responsibility means saying, I can't always control what happens, but I can control who I become because of it. And when you pair responsibility with vision, discipline, courage, and gratitude, you create a force no setback can break. Let's end this part with a reminder. Improvement is not about becoming someone else. It's about becoming more fully yourself. Shedding the lies, the fears, the conditioning, until what's left is the truest version of you. That version of you is not weak, it's not unworthy, it's not broken. It's powerful, capable, resilient, and worthy of love and purpose. Your job isn't to chase perfection, it's to uncover that truth and live it every day. So here's the question for you now. If today was your only chance, how would you live it? What choice would you make? What fear would you face? What habit would you begin? Because every day is a chance to start again, and the best time to start is always now. Let's talk about mindset. Because before any habit, before any action, before any transformation, it begins in the mind. The way you think shapes the way you live. Your beliefs set the ceiling for your growth. If you believe you can't, you won't. If you believe you're doomed, you'll act like it. If you believe you're capable, possibilities open. There are two basic mindsets that govern how people approach life: a fixed mindset and a growth mindset. A fixed mindset believes that abilities are static. You're either talented or you're not, smart or not, capable or not. A growth mindset believes abilities can be developed through effort, learning, and persistence. Now here's the kicker. Whichever mindset you hold becomes your reality. If you believe you can't change, you won't try. If you believe growth is possible, you'll seek opportunities, learn from mistakes, and keep going. Same person, same potential, different mindset, different destiny. But here's the good news. Mindset itself can be changed. You don't have to stay stuck in old beliefs. You can train your mind to see challenges as opportunities instead of threats. to see effort as investment instead of punishment, to see feedback as guidance instead of criticism. That shift alone can alter the course of your life. Think about it. Every great inventor, artist, or leader failed countless times. But they didn't label those failures as proof of incapability. They labeled them as steps. Edison didn't fail 1,000 times at inventing the light bulb. He discovered 1,000 ways that didn't work. That's growth mindset. And growth mindset doesn't just change how you see failure, it changes how you see yourself. Instead of saying, "I'm not good at this," you begin to say, "I'm not good at this yet." That one word, "yet," keeps the door open. It transforms final judgment into ongoing possibility. But mindset is more than beliefs about ability. It's also about beliefs about life. Some people carry a scarcity mindset, the belief that there's never enough. Never enough money, never enough opportunities, never enough love. That mindset breeds fear, jealousy, and competition. Others carry an abundance mindset, the belief that opportunities are endless, that there's always room for creativity, growth, and connection. That mindset breeds generosity, collaboration, and courage. And once again, the mindset you choose becomes your reality. Scarcity blinds you to opportunities. Abundance helps you see them. Scarcity makes you protect what you have out of fear. Abundance helps you build more without panic. So ask yourself, which mindset are you living from, and which one do you want to cultivate? Because the answer will quietly shape everything, from your relationships to your career to your peace of mind. But here's the thing, mindset alone isn't enough. You can't just think your way into transformation. You have to act. Thoughts create direction, but actions create change. Mindset without action, daydreaming. Action without mindset is aimless. The power comes when you combine them, belief fueling action and action reinforcing belief. And here's where many people stumble. They underestimate the power of small, consistent action. They think growth requires massive, dramatic moves. But the truth is, transformation is built in the tiny moments. The decision to get up when you don't feel like it. The choice to read one page instead of scrolling. The act of speaking up when it's easier to stay silent. Small actions, repeated, carve out massive change. Think of a drop of water falling on stone. One drop changes nothing. But repeated over time, the drops carve rivers and reshape landscapes. Your habits work the same way. Every small action is a drop, and with enough repetition, those drops change the shape of your life. Now let's address another obstacle. Comfort. Comfort is seductive. It whispers, "Stay here, you're safe, why struggle?" And in the short term, comfort feels good, but long-term comfort breeds stagnation. Growth always lives on the edge of discomfort. Think about exercise. Muscles grow only when they're pushed beyond their current limit. Think about learning. Knowledge grows only when you wrestle with what you don't understand. Think about relationships. Connection deepens only when you risk vulnerability. Discomfort is the birthplace of growth, so don't run from it. Lean into it, seek it, because the discomfort you avoid today becomes the regret you carry tomorrow. But the discomfort you face today becomes the strength you celebrate tomorrow. And here's the truth. You're stronger than you think. The limits you feel are rarely your actual limits. They're just the edges of your comfort zone. Push a little further, and you'll surprise yourself. Again and again. But let's pause here and bring in balance. Because while discomfort fuels growth, burnout destroys it. Growth is not about punishing yourself endlessly. It's about stretching, then recovering, then stretching again. Too much comfort creates weakness. Too much strain creates collapse. The art of growth is finding the rhythm between challenge and rest. This is why self-awareness is so critical. You need to know when you're holding back out of fear and when you're pushing too hard out of pride. You need to know when to demand more of yourself and when to give yourself compassion. Growth is not about extremes, it's about wisdom. And wisdom is built through reflection. Take time regularly to look back. Ask yourself, what did I learn this week? Where did I grow? Where did I stumble? Reflection turns experience into insight. Without it, you risk repeating the same mistakes. With it, every failure becomes a lesson. Every victory a guide. Which brings us to one final point for this section. Never stop learning. The moment you believe you know enough, you stop growing. Stay a student, always. Read widely. Ask questions. Surround yourself with people who challenge your perspective. Curiosity keeps you alive. Humility keeps you open. Together, they keep you growing. Because in the end, the greatest investment you'll ever make is in yourself. Your mind, your character, your spirit. Everything else flows from that. Let's zoom in on something we all wrestle with: fear. Fear is one of the strongest forces that hold people back from self-improvement. Fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of the unknown. On the surface, fear feels like protection. It warns us of danger. But most of the time, the danger isn't real. It's imagined. It's the mind painting worst-case scenarios and convincing us they're inevitable. Think about how many dreams have died, not because they were impossible, but because someone was too afraid to even try. Fear doesn't have to shout to win. All it needs to do is whisper, "What if it doesn't work?" And suddenly action is paralyzed. But here's the truth. The only way through fear is action. Waiting until you're fearless is waiting forever. Courage isn't the absence of fear, it's movement in spite of it. Every time you act while afraid, you weaken fear's grip. And with enough repetition, what once terrified you becomes normal. Remember the first time you tried something new, maybe driving, maybe speaking in front of a group, maybe starting a new job. It was scary at first, wasn't it? But with repetition, the fear faded. The same pattern applies everywhere. Fear shrinks when faced, grows when avoided. Now let's connect fear with another thief of growth: comparison. In today's world, it's easier than ever to measure your life against others. Social media floods you with highlight reels of everyone else's achievements, beauty, wealth, success. And if you're not careful, comparison steals your joy and your drive. Because comparison creates two traps. First, it makes you feel inferior, like no matter what you do, it's not enough compared to others. Second, it makes you arrogant, like you're above others because you're ahead in some area. Both traps are poison. The antidote? Compete only with yourself. The question isn't, am I better than them? The question is, am I better than I was yesterday? Growth is not about outrunning others, it's about outgrowing yourself. That shift frees you from envy and pride and keeps your focus where it belongs, on your own path. But growth is not only personal, it's relational. Who you surround yourself with matters. People are contagious. Their mindset, their energy, their habits, they rub off on you. Surround yourself with negative, stagnant people, and you'll absorb their limits. Surround yourself with positive, ambitious people, and you'll absorb their drive. There's a saying, you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. That's not a rigid formula, but it holds truth. Your environment shapes you more than you realize. So audit your circle. Who lifts you up? Who drags you down? And are you brave enough to set boundaries where needed? Now let's talk about resilience. Because no matter how much you prepare, life will test you. Plans will fail. People will disappoint. Circumstances will knock you down. The difference between those who grow and those who give up isn't the absence of setbacks. It's the presence of resilience. Resilience is the ability to bend without breaking, to fall and rise again. And it's not an innate gift, it's a skill. It's built by facing difficulties, processing them, and choosing to keep moving. Each trial you survive becomes proof of your strength. And over time, that proof builds unshakable confidence. Think about a tree. The strongest ones aren't those shielded from storms, they're the ones that endured them. The wind made their roots go deeper, their trunks grow sturdier. You're the same. Every storm you endure, every hardship you face, is strengthening you in ways you may not see yet. And while we're here, let's touch on gratitude. Gratitude may sound soft compared to resilience or ambition, but don't underestimate its power. Gratitude shifts your focus from what's missing to what's present, from scarcity to abundance. And when you live in gratitude, you train your mind to see opportunities instead of problems. Imagine 2 people waking up to the same rainy morning. One complains, another gloomy day, nothing will go right. The other says, the rain nourishes the earth, I get to stay inside and work on my goals. Same weather, different mindset, different day. Gratitude doesn't change circumstances, but it changes perception, and perception changes everything. Let's tie this back to self-improvement as a whole. Growth is not about perfection. It's not about eliminating all flaws or achieving some flawless version of yourself. Growth is about progress. It's about choosing to be a little stronger, a little wiser, a little kinder than you were yesterday. And the beauty is, progress compounds. 1% better every day may feel small, but compounded over time it becomes exponential. Tiny shifts lead to massive transformation. You don't notice it day to day, but step back after a year and the difference is undeniable. This is why patience is so critical. Self-improvement is not a quick sprint, it's a lifelong marathon. And marathons require pacing. They require endurance. You don't reach the finish line by burning out in the first mile. You reach it by steady steps, one after another, sustained over time. So don't rush your growth. Don't despise the slow days. Trust the process. Celebrate the small wins, because every small step forward is proof you're not standing still. And here's where I want to leave you for now. Everything you need to grow is already within you. You don't need perfect conditions. You don't need flawless plans. You don't need permission. What you need is willingness. The willingness to begin, to stumble, to rise, to try again. Growth isn't reserved for the gifted. It's available to the committed. And commitment isn't built on motivation. It's built on choice. You choose to keep going. You choose to show up. You choose to bet on yourself even when it's hard. And with those choices day after day, you shape a life worth living. Let's talk about identity. Because at the deepest level, your actions are shaped by how you see yourself. You can try to change habits, set goals, and push discipline. But if your identity doesn't shift, the change won't stick. Think about someone who's trying to quit smoking. If they see themselves as a smoker who's trying to quit, they'll fight an uphill battle every day. But if they shift identity, I'm not a smoker, suddenly the habit no longer fits who they are. Same action, different foundation. Identity drives consistency. If you see yourself as an athlete, exercise becomes natural. If you see yourself as a reader, books become a part of your routine. If you see yourself as disciplined, you'll act in alignment with that belief. Identity is the soil from which habits grow. But here's the trick. Identity is shaped by evidence. Every small action you take is a vote for the kind of person you want to become. Read one page. You cast a vote for being a reader. Meditate for 2 minutes. You cast a vote for being mindful. Skip dessert. You cast a vote for being healthy. Identity isn't built in a single moment. It's built in 1,000 small votes. And you don't need unanimous votes. You don't need perfection. You just need enough consistent evidence to believe, this is who I am now. Once that belief takes root, habits stop being forced. They become natural expressions of your identity. But identity isn't only about what you do, it's also about what you refuse to accept. Growth often means letting go of old identities that no longer serve you. Maybe you've carried the belief, I'm not good with money, or I'm shy, or I can't stick to things. Those identities may have been true once, but they don't have to define your future. Ask yourself, who am I becoming? And what identities do I need to shed in order to step into that version of myself? Because sometimes the hardest part of growth isn't adding something new, it's releasing something old. Now let's shift gears and talk about purpose. Because without purpose, self-improvement can feel empty. You can optimize your habits, sharpen your discipline, master your mindset, but if you don't know why you're doing it, it can all feel hollow. Purpose is the compass. It's the reason behind the effort. It's what makes the struggle meaningful. Without purpose, discomfort feels like punishment. With purpose, discomfort feels like progress. And here's the thing, purpose doesn't have to be grand. It doesn't have to be saving the world or building an empire. It just has to be real. Maybe your purpose is being the best parent you can be. Maybe it's using your creativity to inspire others. Maybe it's building a life of freedom and integrity. Whatever it is, purpose gives weight to your actions. But purpose isn't found in a single moment of clarity. It's uncovered through living, through trying, failing, reflecting, adjusting. Purpose reveals itself step by step as you pay attention to what excites you, what challenges you, what makes you come alive. And here's the paradox. Purpose often grows out of pain. The struggles you endure often shape the contributions you make. People who suffered loneliness create communities. People who battled illness become healers. People who faced injustice fight for fairness. Your pain can become your purpose if you're willing to transform it. But purpose alone isn't enough. It needs direction. This is where vision comes in. Vision is purpose projected into the future. It's the picture of the life you're working toward. Without vision, you drift. With vision, you steer. And the clearer the vision, the stronger the pull. A vague vision, I want to be successful, won't move you much. But a vivid vision, I want to run a thriving business that gives me freedom to spend time with my family and travel the world, creates energy, focus, and motivation. So take time to imagine, to dream, to write down what you see when you close your eyes and think about your best future. Because clarity creates power, and power fuels progress. Now let's touch on self-discipline. Because no matter how strong your purpose or vision, without discipline, it stays in the realm of dreams. Discipline is the bridge between intention and reality. It's what carries you from I want to I did. And discipline isn't about perfection or harshness. It's about alignment. It's about choosing long-term gain over short-term ease. It's saying I'll do what I said I'd do, even when I don't feel like it. That's the muscle of discipline. But discipline isn't built in giant leaps. It's built in small reps. Every time you follow through on a promise to yourself, you strengthen the muscle. Every time you break a promise, you weaken it. Self-trust is the foundation of discipline. When you trust yourself to follow through, discipline becomes second nature. This is why discipline and identity are linked. If you see yourself as disciplined, you'll act accordingly. And every disciplined act reinforces that identity. The loop strengthens itself. But let's clear a misconception. Discipline doesn't mean rigidity. It doesn't mean never resting, never having fun, never bending. Discipline includes flexibility. It includes knowing when to push and when to pause. The point isn't punishment, it's consistency. And consistency requires sustainability. And here's the beautiful part. The more disciplined you become, the more freedom you gain. At first, discipline feels restrictive. But over time, it opens doors. The discipline of saving creates financial freedom. The discipline of health creates physical freedom. The discipline of learning creates intellectual freedom. What feels like sacrifice today becomes liberation tomorrow. So don't see discipline as a cage. See it as the path to freedom. Now let's talk about energy. Because all the discipline, purpose, and vision in the world mean little if your body and mind don't have the energy to carry them out. Energy is the fuel of self-improvement. Without it, everything slows. With it, everything accelerates. Energy is physical, mental, and emotional, and each type feeds into the others. When your body is sluggish, your mind feels cloudy. When your mind is overwhelmed, your emotions spiral. When your emotions are drained, your body feels heavy. That's why self-improvement requires caring for all three. Physical energy starts with the basics: sleep, nutrition, and movement. These aren't luxuries, they're foundations. Sleep isn't just rest, it's repair. Your brain processes, your body heals, your energy resets. Skimp on sleep and you steal from tomorrow's performance. Nutrition is fuel. What you put in your body either powers you or poisons you. That doesn't mean you need perfect diets or obsessive rules. It means being intentional. More whole foods, fewer processed ones. More water, less sugar. More balance, less excess. And movement. Movement is life. The body was built to move, not to sit still all day. Exercise isn't just for muscles. It sharpens focus, lifts mood, reduces stress, and boosts energy. Even a walk can change your state. Don't think of exercise as punishment. Think of it as activation. But physical energy is just the start. Mental energy matters too. And here's the truth. Focus is the new superpower. In a world full of distraction, the ability to concentrate deeply is rare and powerful. But focus requires mental energy. And mental energy requires boundaries. Every decision you make, every distraction you entertain, drains energy. That's why simplifying your environment, creating routines, and limiting noise isn't just organization, it's energy preservation. Protect your attention like treasure, because it is. Then there's emotional energy. This is the most overlooked. Relationships, self-talk, unresolved conflicts, they all affect your emotional reserves. Negative people, toxic environments, constant criticism, they drain you. Gratitude, kindness, meaningful connection, they restore you. So ask yourself, who and what gives me energy, and who and what drains it? Then make the choices that honor your emotional well-being, because emotional exhaustion can't be solved with more coffee or more hustle. It requires boundaries, healing, and connection. And here's the deeper truth. Energy isn't just managed, it's generated. You can create energy by how you breathe, how you move, how you think. That's why enthusiasm matters, Passion creates energy. Purpose creates energy. Curiosity creates energy. Sometimes you don't wait for energy. You generate it by engaging fully with life. Now, let's connect this back to resilience. Energy fuels resilience. When your reserves are empty, setbacks break you. When your reserves are strong, setbacks bend you but don't shatter you. That's why managing energy isn't selfish, it's strategic. You're not at your best when you're drained. You're at your best when your tank is full. But energy management requires honesty. Too often, people push past exhaustion, pretending they're fine. But ignoring signals doesn't erase them, it magnifies them. Burnout doesn't happen overnight, it builds silently until one day you can't move forward. Catch the signs early. Rest before you're forced to. And speaking of rest, rest isn't weakness. Rest is renewal. Rest is what allows you to come back sharper, stronger, more alive. Even machines need downtime. How much more does a human being need it? Now let's widen the lens. Self-improvement isn't only about the self, it's also about contribution. Because at some point, growth for growth's sake feels empty. The highest form of growth is when it flows outward, when it enriches others. Think about it. The people who inspire us most aren't just successful for themselves. They create impact. They lift others. They use their growth to make the world a little better. And that doesn't always mean grand gestures. It can be as simple as kindness, encouragement, mentorship, presence. Contribution gives meaning. It connects your personal journey to something bigger. It reminds you that growth isn't just about becoming the best version of yourself. It's about using that version to serve. And here's the paradox. Contribution doesn't deplete you. It multiplies you. When you give encouragement, you feel encouraged. When you lift others, you feel lifted. When you share what you've learned, your own understanding deepens. Contribution expands both giver and receiver. So ask yourself, who benefits when I grow? Whose life improves when I improve mine? That question adds weight to your journey. It keeps you going when motivation fades. Because it's no longer just about you. It's about those who depend on you, those who are inspired by you, those whose lives touch yours. And when you see growth as contribution, you realize self-improvement isn't selfish. It's the most generous thing you can do. Because the better you become, the more you can give. The more you can lead, love, inspire, and serve. And that's the essence of this path. It begins with the self, but doesn't end there. It begins with habits and discipline, but it blossoms into purpose and contribution. It begins with small steps, but it leads to a life that echoes far beyond your own. So wherever you are right now, whether you're just starting or deep in the journey, remember this: progress is possible. Growth is available. And the path forward is always open. Because self-improvement isn't a destination, it's a way of living. It's waking up each day with the choice to be a little better, to live a little deeper, to give a little more. And over time, those choices don't just change your life, they change the lives around you. That's the power of this journey. That's the gift of self-improvement. Let's dive into time, because time is the one resource you can never get back. You can lose money and earn it again. You can lose opportunities and find new ones. But time, once it's gone, is gone forever. That's why how you use your time is one of the clearest indicators of who you'll become. The truth is, most people don't lose life to sudden catastrophe. They lose it to slow leakage. Hours scrolled away on distractions. Days blurred together in routines without intention. Weeks passed waiting for the right moment that never comes. And then one day, they look back and realize that years have vanished. But here's the thing. You don't need more time. You need more intention. Every person has the same 24 hours in a day. What separates the fulfilled from the frustrated is how those hours are spent. So here's a question worth asking. Where is your time actually going? Not where you think it's going, where it's really going. Track it for a week. Write it down. You'll be surprised at how much disappears into unplanned, unconscious activities. Awareness is the first step. And once you're aware, you can make choices. You can begin to align your hours with your priorities. Because the truth is, if something matters to you, it has to show up in your calendar. If it doesn't, it's just wishful thinking. But this is where many people stumble. They try to pack every hour with productivity, thinking that's the goal. But productivity without purpose is just busyness. The goal isn't to cram your life with tasks, it's to fill it with what matters. Some of that will be work, some will be rest, some will be growth, some will be connection. Balance, not overload. And part of mastering time is mastering attention. Because it's not just about how many hours you have, it's about how deeply you use them. One focused hour can be worth more than 5 distracted ones. That's why guarding your attention is as important as guarding your time. Distraction is the silent killer of progress, and the world is designed to pull your focus in 1,000 directions. Notifications, ads, endless scrolling. If you don't take control of your attention, someone else will. So build environments that protect your focus. Turn off unnecessary alerts. Create spaces where you can work without constant interruption. Give yourself permission to be unavailable sometimes. It's not about being rigid, it's about being intentional. But here's the paradox. While discipline with time is essential, so is flexibility. Life is unpredictable. Plans will change. Interruptions will happen. The point isn't to control every moment. It's to stay anchored to your priorities, even when the flow shifts. And here's another truth. Sometimes the most valuable use of time is not doing more, but doing less. Eliminating what doesn't matter. Saying no to what doesn't align. Because every yes to something unimportant is a no to something essential. Time mastery isn't just about scheduling, it's about values. It's about knowing what matters most to you, and then living like it matters. But time also teaches humility. No matter how disciplined, none of us knows how much we have left. That reality can feel sobering, but it can also be freeing, because it reminds you not to waste life on trivial things. It reminds you to say the words you've been holding back, to take the chances you've been postponing, to cherish the people around you while you can. Time is the reminder that life is fragile, fleeting, precious. And when you live with that awareness, you stop drifting, you start living deliberately. Now let's connect time to patience. Because one of the greatest challenges in self-improvement is the hunger for speed. We want results now. We want transformation overnight. But real growth takes time. Habits need repetition. Skills need practice. Wisdom needs experience. Impatience leads to quitting. Patience leads to progress. Think about a seed. You plant it, water it, care for it. But you don't dig it up every day asking, why haven't you grown yet? You trust the process. You let time do its work. Self-improvement is the same. And patience isn't passive, it's active. It means continuing to show up, even when results aren't visible yet. It means trusting that small actions, done consistently, will bear fruit in time. But patience doesn't mean stagnation. It doesn't mean waiting for life to happen to you. It means moving forward steadily, without panic, without rushing. It's the balance between urgency and trust. And when you combine patience with discipline, something powerful happens. You stop burning out from sprints, and you start building endurance for the marathon of life. Let's tie this back to legacy. Because how you use your time, patiently and intentionally, shapes the story you leave behind. Legacy isn't just built in big moments, it's built in daily choices. The way you treat people, the way you spend your hours, the way you live your values. And here's the truth. Your legacy isn't something you leave someday, it's something you create every day. Every interaction is a chance to leave an imprint. Every choice is a brushstroke on the canvas of your life. So ask yourself, if someone observed how I use my time, what would they say matters to me? And is that the legacy I want to leave? Because in the end, self-improvement isn't just about becoming better for yourself, it's about creating ripples that outlast you. Let's talk about failure. Because no matter how much you plan, no matter how hard you work, failure is inevitable. And that's not a tragedy, it's a teacher. The problem is, most of us have been trained to see failure as shame. From school grades to social pressure, we've been taught that failure equals weakness, incompetence, proof that we're not enough. But the truth is, failure is feedback. It's data. It's the universe saying, not this way, try another. Think about it. Every invention, every breakthrough, every success story was built on a mountain of failures. Thomas Edison didn't fail once at creating the light bulb. He failed thousands of times. J.K. Rowling's Harry Potter manuscript was rejected by multiple publishers before it became a global phenomenon. Michael Jordan missed thousands of shots before becoming the legend we admire. Failure doesn't define you. Response does. Some people let failure stop them. Others let it sharpen them. The difference isn't the outcome, it's the perspective. And here's the hidden gift of failure. It reveals strength you didn't know you had. When everything goes smoothly, you don't grow much. But when you stumble, when you hit walls, when you face disappointment, that's where resilience is forged. That's where you learn creativity, humility, persistence. So don't fear failure, fear inaction. Because failure can move you forward, but inaction keeps you frozen. And remember, you can recover from a wrong decision, but you can't recover from no decision at all. Now let's flip the coin and talk about success. Because success has its own challenges. On the surface, it looks like the finish line. But often, success reveals new struggles, complacency, arrogance, pressure to maintain, fear of losing it. That's why defining success matters. If your definition is vague, money, recognition, approval, you'll never feel satisfied. There will always be someone richer, more admired, more praised. But if your definition is rooted in values, growth, contribution, integrity, you'll find fulfillment even in small wins. So ask yourself, what does success really mean to me? Is it external applause or internal alignment? Is it comparison to others or consistency with my own values? Your answer shapes your journey. And here's the paradox. The people who chase external success often feel empty when they get it. The people who pursue internal fulfillment often end up attracting external success as a byproduct. When you live authentically, when you focus on growth and service, results tend to follow. But success, however you define it, requires humility. The moment you think you've arrived, growth stops. The most successful people are perpetual students. They never assume they know it all. They stay curious, open, adaptable. That humility keeps them sharp. And just as failure doesn't define you, success doesn't either. Both are temporary states. What defines you is the character you build in the process, the resilience in failure, the humility in success, the persistence through both. Now let's touch on change, because self-improvement is change, and change is uncomfortable. Humans are creatures of habit. We cling to the familiar, even when it no longer serves us. That's why change feels threatening. It shakes the ground beneath our routines, our identities, our comfort. But here's the truth. Change is the only constant. Life itself is change. Seasons shift, bodies age, circumstances evolve. Resisting change doesn't stop it, it just makes it harder. Embracing change, on the other hand, turns it into opportunity. And change doesn't always mean big leaps. Sometimes it's small shifts that lead to big transformation. A new perspective, a single habit, a different choice repeated consistently. Don't underestimate the power of small change sustained over time. But change requires courage, the courage to step into the unknown, to risk failure, to let go of what's comfortable. And courage isn't absence of fear, it's action in its presence. Remember that. And here's where self-compassion enters the picture. Because in the pursuit of growth, it's easy to become your own harshest critic. To beat yourself up for mistakes, to push yourself relentlessly, to demand perfection. But growth thrives not under self-abuse, but under self-compassion. Self-compassion isn't weakness, it's strength. It means acknowledging mistakes without labeling yourself a failure. It means giving yourself patience as you learn. It means treating yourself like you would treat a close friend, firm but kind, encouraging, not condemning. Because here's the paradox. People think self-criticism fuels growth. In reality, it often paralyzes it. Self-compassion, on the other hand, gives you the courage to keep going. It keeps you from quitting when things get messy, and things always get messy. So remember this. Growth isn't about perfection. It's about persistence. It's about stumbling forward, not gliding smoothly. It's about falling, rising, learning, repeating. And the only way to keep doing that long enough is to treat yourself with compassion along the way. And finally, let's circle back to one truth that underpins everything we've explored so far. Self-improvement is a choice. No one can force it on you. No one can live it for you. You decide. You decide to take responsibility. You decide to invest in yourself. You decide to rise after falling, to learn after failing, to keep going after doubting. And every time you choose growth over comfort, you shape your future. Every time you choose discipline over distraction, you move closer to your vision. Every time you choose persistence over quitting, you write another chapter of a story worth telling. Because in the end, self-improvement isn't a destination, it's a direction. It's not about becoming perfect, it's about becoming better. Not once, not someday, but today. and tomorrow, and the day after. And if you keep choosing that path, one step, one choice, one day at a time, you'll wake up years from now and realize you've become someone stronger, wiser, fuller than you ever imagined. And it all began with a decision. Let's talk about identity. Because behind every habit, every action, every decision, there's a deeper belief about who you are. And unless you address that belief, change won't stick. Here's what I mean. If you see yourself as a lazy person, you'll struggle to build discipline. If you see yourself as unlucky, you'll sabotage opportunities. If you believe, I'm not good enough, no amount of external success will feel satisfying. Identity is the lens through which you see yourself, and it colors everything. That's why lasting growth requires identity shift. Not just what you do, but who you believe you are. Take the example of health. You can try to force yourself to exercise, count calories, avoid junk food. But if deep down you believe I'm just not a healthy person, you'll resist, you'll sabotage, you'll quit. But if you shift your identity to, I'm an athlete in training, I'm someone who takes care of my body, then every choice aligns with that identity. Running isn't punishment, it's something athletes do. Eating clean isn't restriction, it's what healthy people do. The same applies everywhere. If you see yourself as a disciplined person, you'll act with discipline. If you see yourself as a learner, you'll embrace challenges. If you see yourself as someone with purpose, you'll move with direction. Identity drives behavior. Behavior reinforces identity. It's a loop. And the good news, you can change it. Slowly, intentionally, choice by choice. Here's how. Every time you act in line with the identity you want, you cast a vote for that version of yourself. Want to be a writer? Write 1 page. That's a vote. Want to be disciplined? Wake up on time. That's a vote. Want to be confident? Speak up once in a meeting. That's a vote. No single action will rewrite your identity, but together, over time, those votes add up. You start to believe, this is who I am. And once that belief takes root, behavior flows naturally. But here's the catch. You also cast votes in the opposite direction. Every time you say, I can't do this, or I'm just not that type of person, you reinforce the old identity. That's why being mindful matters. Every choice is a ballot in the election of your future self. And here's a truth many people miss. Identity isn't fixed. It's not carved in stone. It's flexible, evolving. The person you are today is not the person you have to remain. You've already changed identities multiple times in your life. Student to worker, child to adult, dependent to independent. You've let go of old identities and embraced new ones, and you'll do it again. So ask yourself, what identity have I been clinging to that no longer serves me? And what identity do I want to step into now? Because growth is less about adding and more about becoming the truest version of who you already are beneath the layers of fear, doubt, and conditioning. Now let's tie this to something equally powerful, environment. Because no matter how strong your willpower, your environment shapes your behavior. If you're surrounded by distraction, discipline is harder. If you're surrounded by negativity, positivity is harder. If you're surrounded by unhealthy options, health is harder. Your environment can pull you forward or drag you down. That's why one of the fastest ways to change your life is to change your environment. Want to read more? Place books where you can see them. Want to eat healthier? Keep fruit visible. Hide junk food. Want to exercise more? Lay out your clothes the night before. Small tweaks in environment lead to big shifts in behavior. But environment isn't just physical, it's social. The people you spend time with influence your identity, your habits, your mindset. Spend time with disciplined people, you'll become more disciplined. Spend time with complainers, you'll complain more. Spend time with dreamers, you'll start dreaming bigger. That's why curating your circle matters. Protect your energy, choose your influences, surround yourself with people who challenge you, inspire you, and believe in your potential. Because the right circle doesn't just support growth, it accelerates it. Now let's connect this to momentum. Growth isn't always about intensity, it's about consistency. One step, repeated daily, beats occasional bursts of effort. Think of a flywheel. At first it's heavy, hard to move. You push, it barely budges, but keep pushing and it starts spinning. Slowly at first, then faster, until momentum carries it forward with less effort. That's growth. At first, change feels heavy. Progress is slow, But with consistent action, momentum builds. And once it does, staying in motion becomes easier than stopping. That's why discipline matters more than motivation. Motivation is temporary, it comes and goes. Discipline creates momentum, and momentum creates results. But here's the trap. When momentum builds, it's tempting to relax. To take your foot off the gas, to say, I've made progress, I can ease up now. And that's when growth stalls. So the key is to treat consistency as identity, not just strategy. Don't just do discipline, be disciplined. Don't just use momentum, live momentum. Make it who you are, not just what you do. Because in the end, growth isn't a sprint, it's a marathon. And the people who win aren't the ones who burn bright for a moment, but the ones who stay steady for years. Let's talk about self-talk, because the voice in your head is the most powerful influence you'll ever encounter. And the truth is, most people's self-talk is toxic. Think about how you speak to yourself after making a mistake. Do you say things like, I'm so stupid, I always mess things up, I'll never get this right? If so, imagine saying those words to a friend. You'd never dare. Yet we speak to ourselves in ways we wouldn't to anyone else. Here's the problem. Your mind listens. The words you repeat become beliefs. Beliefs become identity. Identity shapes behavior. It's a chain reaction. Negative self-talk plants seeds of limitation that grow into forests of doubt. But you can flip the script. Self-talk can be your ally instead of your enemy. You can choose words that empower instead of diminish. Words like, I'm learning, I'm growing. This challenge will make me stronger. I've done hard things before. I can do this too. It may feel unnatural at first, fake even. But remember, your current self-talk once felt natural too, and it was learned, which means it can be unlearned. Replace criticism with encouragement long enough, and it becomes your new default. Self-talk doesn't mean blind positivity. It doesn't mean ignoring problems or pretending everything's perfect. It means being honest without being cruel, firm without being destructive, hopeful without being naive. It means speaking to yourself like you would to someone you care about. And here's why it matters. Your mind becomes your environment. If your thoughts are hostile, living inside your head feels unbearable. But if your thoughts are supportive, your mind becomes a place of refuge, a home where growth feels safe. That brings us to mindset. The way you frame challenges shapes your experience of them. Two people can face the same obstacle. One sees it as a dead end, the other as a stepping stone. What's the difference? Mindset. Psychologist Carol Dweck calls it fixed versus growth mindset. A fixed mindset believes abilities are static. You're either smart or not, talented or not, capable or not. A growth mindset believes abilities can be developed with effort, learning, and persistence. The difference sounds small, but it changes everything. With a fixed mindset, failure means I'm not good enough. With a growth mindset, failure means I'm learning something new. With a fixed mindset, effort feels pointless. With a growth mindset, effort feels powerful. Cultivating a growth mindset is one of the most important shifts you can make, because it frees you from the prison of perfectionism. It allows you to embrace challenges, recover from setbacks, and see growth as a process instead of a verdict. But mindset isn't magic. It's a practice. It's catching the thought, I can't do this, and reframing it to I can't do this yet. It's noticing the belief, I failed, so I'm a failure, and replacing it with I failed, so I'm learning. It's choosing to see potential instead of limits, possibilities instead of problems. Now let's link mindset to gratitude, because gratitude shifts perspective faster than almost anything else. When you practice gratitude, you train your mind to focus on what's present, not what's missing. On abundance, not scarcity. On progress, not lack. Gratitude doesn't erase hardship, but it reframes it. Even in dark seasons, there's always something to be thankful for. Lessons learned, strength discovered, moments of kindness, the breath in your lungs. Gratitude doesn't minimize pain, it shines light alongside it. And here's the beauty. Gratitude fuels resilience. When you notice what's good, you find the energy to keep going. Gratitude fuels relationships. When you appreciate others, bonds deepen. Gratitude fuels joy. When you celebrate small wins, life feels richer. That's why some of the most resilient, joyful people aren't those with the easiest lives, but those with the deepest gratitude. They don't wait for everything to be perfect to feel thankful. They practice gratitude now, and that shapes how they experience life. Now let's touch on forgiveness. Because self-improvement isn't just about adding habits or chasing goals, it's about releasing the weight that holds you back. And nothing is heavier than unforgiveness. When you hold on to resentment, you chain yourself to the past. You replay the hurt, relive the pain, and keep yourself bound to the very thing you wish to escape. Forgiveness doesn't mean excusing what happened. It doesn't mean forgetting. It means freeing yourself from carrying the burden. And forgiveness isn't only for others, it's for you. For the mistakes you've made, the regrets you carry, the moments you wish you could redo. Self-forgiveness is essential, because if you refuse to forgive yourself, you sabotage growth at every step. Forgiveness is freedom. It creates space for new growth, and growth thrives in freedom. Let's end this part with a reminder. Growth is holistic. It's not just physical or mental. It's emotional, relational, spiritual. It's how you think, how you feel, how you connect, how you live. Every part of you is connected. Ignore one and the others suffer. Nourish all and you thrive. So don't just focus on habits, focus on identity. Don't just focus on goals, focus on gratitude. Don't just focus on progress, focus on peace. Because true self-improvement isn't just about doing more, it's about becoming whole. Let's talk about fear. Because if there's one thing that quietly sabotages more dreams than anything else, it's fear. Fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of rejection, fear of not being enough. Fear wears many masks. Sometimes it looks like procrastination, I'll do it later. Sometimes it looks like perfectionism, it's not ready yet. Sometimes it looks like distraction, scrolling, binge-watching, avoiding. But underneath, it's the same root: fear. Here's the truth about fear: it never disappears. You don't outgrow it, you don't eliminate it, but you can learn to walk with it. Fear shrinks in the presence of action. The more you act, the less it controls you. Think back to a time you were terrified to do something. Speak in public, ask for help, try something new. Remember the dread before, and remember the relief after? Fear thrives in anticipation. The longer you wait, the bigger it grows. The moment you act, it weakens. That's why courage is not the absence of fear, it's movement in spite of it. Every act of courage says to fear, you don't get the final word. But fear isn't always your enemy. Sometimes it's a signal. Fear points toward growth. If something scares you, it often means it matters. It means stepping into it will stretch you, expand you, transform you. So instead of running from fear, start asking, what is this fear trying to teach me? Now let's talk about risk. Because growth requires it. You cannot improve while clinging to certainty. Risk means stepping where the ground isn't solid yet. It means putting your comfort on the line for the chance at something better. And risk doesn't always mean massive leaps. Sometimes it's small, daily risks, sharing your opinion, admitting you don't know something, reaching out to someone new. Every risk expands your capacity for courage. Here's the paradox. Avoiding risk feels safe, but it slowly suffocates growth. Embracing risk feels scary, but it unlocks possibility. Which path do you want to choose? Now let's touch on discipline again, but from a different angle. Self-control. Because growth isn't just about what you start doing, it's also about what you stop doing. It's about mastering impulses, resisting distractions, saying no when every part of you wants to say yes. Self-control isn't about deprivation, it's about direction. It's not saying, I can't have this, it's saying I choose something better. Every no to distraction is a yes to purpose. Every no to instant gratification is a yes to long-term fulfillment. And here's the secret. Self-control grows like a muscle. The more you exercise it, the stronger it becomes. Start small. Resist one temptation. Delay one gratification. Each victory builds momentum for the next. Now let's talk about meaning. Because self-improvement without meaning is empty. You can chase habits, build discipline, achieve goals. But if you don't know why you're doing it, you'll feel hollow. Meaning comes from alignment. Aligning your actions with your values. Aligning your goals with your purpose, aligning your growth with something bigger than yourself. And meaning often comes from contribution. From knowing your growth doesn't just serve you, but serves others. From realizing your discipline, your resilience, your courage can ripple outward and inspire, support, uplift those around you. Because in the end, self-improvement isn't just self-focused. It's not only about building a better life for you, it's about becoming the kind of person who makes life better for others. That's where fulfillment lives. Let's bring in another key: presence. Because growth isn't only about building the future, it's about living the present. Too many people chase tomorrow and miss today. They sacrifice joy in the name of progress, only to reach the future and find it empty. Presence means noticing the moment, feeling the breath, savoring the laughter, appreciating the progress you've already made. Because life doesn't begin at some finish line, it's happening now. Growth and presence aren't opposites, they're partners. Grow for tomorrow, but live for today. Push forward, but pause to enjoy. Be ambitious, but also be present. That balance is where peace lives. And finally, let's revisit one truth. Growth is personal. No one else's timeline applies to you. No one else's definition of success defines you. No one else's path should pressure you. You are not behind. You are not late. You are on your journey. So give yourself permission to grow at your pace, to celebrate your progress, to honor your struggle, to trust that the path unfolding beneath your feet is the one you're meant to walk. Because in the end, growth isn't about speed, it's about direction. It's not about competing, it's about becoming. And if you keep walking, keep choosing, keep growing, you'll look back one day and see that every step, every stumble, every risk, every rise was worth it. Let's talk about patience. Because in a world addicted to speed, patience is rare, and yet it's one of the most powerful traits for growth. We live in a culture of instant gratification, one-click shopping, instant downloads, same-day delivery. We've been trained to expect results now. But growth doesn't work like that. Habits take time. Transformation takes time. Mastery takes time. Impatience kills progress. It makes you quit too soon. It whispers, this isn't working. You're wasting your time. Others are ahead. But patience reminds you, stay the course. The roots are growing, even if you can't see the fruit yet. Think of a seed. You water it, you wait. For days, maybe weeks, nothing happens. Underground, growth is happening unseen. Then one day it breaks the surface. But without patience, you would have stopped watering long before. Self-improvement is the same. Progress is often invisible until it suddenly becomes obvious. The work you put in compounds, but only if you stay patient long enough to let it. Now let's pair patience with persistence, because patience without persistence is passive. Persistence without patience is frantic. Together they create steady, unstoppable progress. Persistence means showing up again and again, even when motivation fades, even when results are slow, even when no one notices. Persistence is commitment in action. And every time you persist, you prove to yourself that you're stronger than circumstance. Let's shift to another key: adaptability. Because growth isn't a straight line. Life will throw surprises, setbacks, detours. If you cling rigidly to one plan, you'll break. If you stay adaptable, you'll bend and keep moving. Adaptability is strength disguised as flexibility. It's the ability to say, this didn't work, so I'll try another way. It's the courage to pivot, to learn, to reinvent when needed. In a changing world, adaptability is survival. Now let's talk about energy. Because improvement requires energy, mental, emotional, physical. Without it, discipline crumbles, focus fades, motivation dies. Energy comes from how you care for yourself. Sleep, nutrition, exercise, rest. Neglect these and growth slows. Honor them and growth accelerates. But energy also comes from alignment. Doing work that matters to you energizes. Living in line with your values energizes. Spending time with uplifting people energizes. Pay attention to what drains you and what fuels you, then choose accordingly. Let's bring in creativity, because self-improvement isn't just discipline and structure, it's imagination. Creativity allows you to see possibilities others miss, to solve problems in new ways, to express your unique voice. And creativity isn't limited to art. It's in how you think, how you work, how you live. Every time you ask, what if, you're practicing creativity. And the more you practice, the more expansive your growth becomes. Now, let's talk about balance. Because self-improvement can easily tip into obsession. You chase goals, track habits, push yourself, and forget to rest, to play, to connect. But growth without balance burns out. Balance means knowing when to push and when to pause, when to grind and when to breathe, when to chase and when to enjoy. It means remembering that life is not just about progress, it's also about presence, joy, love, connection. And here's the paradox. Balance actually fuels growth. Rest sharpens focus. Play fuels creativity. Connection strengthens resilience. By honoring all areas of life, you make every area stronger. Let's bring in generosity, because the highest form of growth is not just improving yourself, it's uplifting others. When you share knowledge, support someone, encourage someone, you multiply your growth. Generosity doesn't diminish you, it expands you. The more you give, the more capacity you create. And often the growth you spark in others circles back to you in unexpected ways. And let's close this part with legacy. Because growth isn't just about this season, it's about the mark you leave. Legacy is not only wealth or achievements, it's the impact you have on others, the kindness you showed, the example you lived, the seeds you planted. Your growth is not just for you, it's for the people who watch you, learn from you, are inspired by you, even if you never realize it. And one day, your story may be the reason someone else chooses to grow. That's legacy. And it begins not with some grand gesture, but with the daily decision to improve, to align, to live fully. Self-improvement is not a straight path. It's a winding road filled with highs and lows, victories and setbacks, clarity and confusion. And that's exactly why it matters, because growth is not easy. If it were, everyone would do it. The truth is, most people don't. Most people settle. They live on autopilot, repeating the same patterns, following the same routines, year after year. Not because they don't want more, but because wanting isn't enough. They never decide. They never commit. But you're listening, you're searching, you're reaching. That means you're already on the path, and the path itself changes you. Every step you take toward growth reshapes who you are becoming. So let's bring together everything we've explored. Growth begins with vision. You must know where you're going. Without it, you drift. With it, you direct your life. Vision gives meaning to your discipline, fuel to your persistence, clarity to your choices. Discipline turns intention into action. It's the bridge between desire and result. But discipline alone isn't enough. You need consistency. Small steps, repeated daily, compound into transformation. Resilience carries you through the storms. Because you will stumble, you will fail, you will face resistance. But every setback is an invitation to rise stronger. Failure is not the end, it's part of the process. Mindset shapes everything. A fixed mindset limits you. A growth mindset liberates you. With it, challenges become opportunities, failures become lessons, progress becomes inevitable. Identity anchors the change. When you shift how you see yourself, habits follow naturally. Who you believe you are determines what you do. That's why every small win is a vote for the identity you want. Environment supports or sabotages you. Choose wisely. Create spaces, routines, and relationships that align with who you're becoming. Surround yourself with people who lift you higher. Fear will always be there, but so will courage. And courage doesn't erase fear, it walks beside it. Risk is the price of growth. But remember, nothing is riskier than staying the same. Patience and persistence carry you through the waiting seasons. Growth often hides underground before it blossoms. Keep watering, keep showing up. Trust the process. Gratitude grounds you. It keeps you from chasing endlessly and helps you savor the now. Forgiveness frees you. It releases the past so you can embrace the future, and meaning gives it all weight. Growth is empty if it serves only you. But when your growth uplifts others, when your life becomes a source of light, you touch eternity. That's legacy. So where does this leave you? At a choice. Because everything we've talked about, vision, discipline, resilience, mindset, identity, patience, purpose, it all comes down to this moment. What will you do now? Will you keep waiting for the right time? Or will you decide that the right time is always now? Will you keep listening to fear, or will you step anyway? Will you keep repeating old patterns, or will you cast a new vote for the person you want to become? Because the truth is, your future is not written. It's not fixed. It's shaped by every choice you make today. And years from now, you'll look back. You'll either say, I wish I had, or I'm glad I did. The difference is what you choose now. So choose growth, choose courage, choose persistence, choose presence, choose gratitude. Choose to become the fullest, truest version of yourself. Because the world doesn't need a perfect you. It needs a growing you, a real you. A you who dares to rise, stumble, rise again. A you who turns pain into wisdom, fear into courage, discipline into freedom, and life into legacy. And that journey begins not tomorrow, not someday, but here, now. With this decision, I will grow.